Hello everyone, welcome back to Fletcher Creek Cottage. I am so excited to have you here. I have another update for you on the DIY dream home that we have been building. In my last update video, I shared with you the process of choosing the exterior and creating a timeless design, and shared all about how we installed all of the hardy plank siding. And in today's video, we're gonna walk through the entire process of building our covered wraparound porch, as well as laying all of the limestone on the front of the house. So with that being said, let's get right into it. All right, so I am upstairs. I'm just grabbing a couple of things that we need. I've got our blueprints for the porch. We have been working on our siding for what seems like forever. We're at a point where we need to stop and we need to work on a couple of other things. The two major things that we need to tackle is we've got to get our wraparound porch built, which is quite long, and it's going to run down the entire front section of the home and then turn and wrap around the side. So in order for us to go up any higher on the siding, we've got to build that covered porch, because we've got to have the ledger board in place before we can side above that roof line. So we're getting ready to start building that porch. And the other thing that we're going to be working on, weather permitting, is installing all of the limestone on the center section of the house for the skirting. So the brick ledge, the footer for that, is already poured and in place, which means we can start laying that stone a few rows at a time while we're simultaneously building the porch. So fingers crossed that winter it doesn't come early this year and we can get a lot of this done. We are definitely running behind schedule. We were hoping to have the porch done, the stone done, and all of the siding before it got cold. We're just hoping that the snow holds off long enough for us to get this porch built and that stone laid. Before we get started, I'm gonna explain a little bit of the changes that we've made to this porch. So it's the same shape as the original blueprints that we drew up a few years ago, but we did make a few little tweaks and changes to the original print, just because aesthetically, I'm leaning a lot more colonial and maybe like a Pennsylvania farmhouse type look on the exterior of this house. As you can see in the blueprint, there's exposed rafters and purlins, and the columns that are on the porch, the posts have an angle bracket. So we're getting rid of that look and we're leaning a lot more colonial, which means the rafters are not going to be exposed, the purlins are not going to be exposed. We are going to have a tongue and groove ceiling instead, which I haven't decided if we're going to stain the tongue and groove or if we're going to paint it a color, which I do have a color in mind. It's the color that I've been leaning towards for our front doors. So I haven't painted those yet. That's something I've got to do. So we'll have to decide that at some point here. In addition to the tongue and groove, we're also going to be wrapping all of the posts and trimming them out with crown molding around the exterior and the interior of the porch roof, as well as like baseboard around the bottom of the columns. So the look is going to be quite a bit different than what you're seeing here on our original blueprints, but structurally it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same roof line as far as the pitch goes, and height wise it's going to come out of the house in the same spot right between our lower windows in those upper transom windows. In between those windows is where we need to install the ledger board. So as far as the porch goes, it will look a little different when it's finished. As we build this porch, I'll make sure and walk you through what it is that we're using and how we're building it, especially since our house is ICF and we've got to attach that ledger board to the concrete. So that's something I'll definitely share with you guys, as well as installing all of the posts and the beams that'll go across the posts and the rafters that we're gonna notch out and attach to the ledger board and the roofing material that we chose and all of that. The stone that we're gonna be installing on the skirting of the front of the house is limestone. It's not veneer, and we have 3 different sizes. Now, Aaron and I are not masons, neither one of us, but we did learn how to lay stone when we built our pavilion. We have 10 stone columns in the pavilion that are full stone, not veneer. So we're pretty familiar with it. We did that project just a couple years ago. We loved the way that the stone looked on the pavilion, and since we had a little bit of stone left over, I actually took an afternoon and I laid all of the leftover stone out out in our yard to take a measurement just to see if I had enough left, if it would be possible to use that on the front of the house instead of using a veneer stone. After I took a measurement, it seemed like there was enough left. So fingers crossed that we have enough. If it's looking like we're gonna be a little short after we get the first few rows of that stone laid, then maybe we'll just not bring it up quite as high. But if my calculations are right, we should have enough to come up to either the bottom of the windows or maybe just a few inches below those 3 windows on the front of the house. So that is our plan. That's what we've got to get working on the next few weeks. And I'm gonna go get changed. We're gonna head out there and get to work. So Erin's been out here. You can see that we have marked the ledger board where it needs to go. And before we can attach it to the house, all of this outer layer of ICF foam needs to be cut out. So Erin's using a chainsaw to cut the foam away, and then we'll be able to install the treated ledger board and Simpson Strong-Tie HD, the heavy duty concrete screws to bolt that in place. So Erin worked on that for quite a while. Our son also came out and helped him lift that ledger board into place. They marked out and pre-drilled the holes in the ledger board before securing it to the concrete. Next up, we need to install the posts that are going to be holding up the roof line. So we followed our blueprints and used a chalk line to mark the edge of all the 6x6 treated posts to sit. We're going to be using a 6x6 galvanized concealed post base from Simpson Strong-Tie. This post base is going to make it really straightforward for us to set our post. So as you can see, it incorporates a knife plate with a standoff base. And this achieves a really clean, concealed look while providing a 1-inch standoff height above the concrete, which is required for building code if you're using untreated. And it's also just good practice to use even if you are using treated. So this concealed post base is going to help prevent any moisture from the concrete or the weather itself getting into your posts and helps prevent rot. They also look great and they can be trimmed around and easily hidden for a more finished look. So to get started on installing these posts, we cut off the bottom of the treated 6x6 just to make sure that it was square. And then we laid out the post knife plate on the bottom of the post and traced 3 holes on one side and then turned it over and traced the cut line. We also used the plate to mark out the concrete and pre-drilled the holes in the concrete. Then Erin just had me stand on the post just to kind of hold it still while he made the cut. And then pre-drilled the 3 holes for the pins. Then he secured the plate to the concrete using the Simpson Strong-Tie Titan HD concrete screws. Once he had the plate screwed down into the concrete, he slid the standoff base over top of it. Now, the standoff base is galvanized and it's powder coated, so it's gonna last a really long time. Once we had one of them installed, we just went down the chalk line, installing the rest all the way along the front and the side of the porch. Once we had all of those in place, Erin carried over the treated 6x6s and I just centered them up on the knife plate, slid them in, and then held the post as level as I could while Erin hammered in the pins. And of course, we grabbed a level just to make sure that these were in fact pretty level, and they were. They stood there just fine on their own. The post base held them in place just fine, and Erin took a measurement, cut each post to the right height, and then we moved on to making all of the beams that would go across all of these posts. Now, you can buy these, but it did save us roughly $500 to $600 to just buy the materials and make them ourselves. So you know us, us, we like to save money wherever we can, so we decided to build them ourselves. Now, these were very heavy, and Aaron and I just kind of walked them up to ladders, and Aaron was able to lift them off the ladder and onto the post. Then we secured the beam to the post using the Zinc Galvanized Simpson Strong-Tie AC6 Adjustable Post Cap for the 6x6 post. Because we were building these ourselves and they were quite, heavy to lift up and get up there on top of those posts, it did take a while to get them up because we were leveling off the posts and also staking them with a 2x4 brace, to hold them all perfectly square and level in place until we got the rafters and all the sheeting on the roof. Once we had all the fasteners installed on the posts and the beams, then we moved on to the rafters. So we didn't use treated wood for this because it's going to be completely covered, so none of this is going to be exposed to the elements whatsoever. Before installing them, Aaron got up on the ladder and marked the ledger board as well as the beam to be sure that we were spacing them out correctly according to the blueprint. After we had cut the bird's mouth out of the end of each one, Aaron worked off of the ladder near the ledger board and he just toenailed them in with his nail gun temporarily in place, and I just worked on handing up the rafters to him one at a time. So next up, we're using the Simpson Strong-Tie Rafter Hangers. These are the Slopeable U Rafter Hangers for our 2x8 rafters. So we're going to install all of these on, I think we have close to 40 rafters. So we've got a lot of hammering to do. So we're out there working on the porch. All the rafters are up. I think there's 38 or 40. Hi guys, hope you're having a great day. I just came out here to get some more brackets. As you can probably hear by the nail gun, we are working on the porch again tonight. So as you can see, we are out here, we're back at it. It is a late fall, but man, we've had some of the most beautiful weather. We are counting our blessings every single day that it's dry. Obviously, it's not ideal working this late into the year in northern Michigan, but we're doing the best we can and working as hard as we can. Today, we're out here installing the sheeting on the porch roof. We've got our plywood sheathing and all of our 1/2-inch clips. So hopefully this goes fairly quickly. We can get this roof sheeted by the end of the night.
Good?
Yep.
Hey, what do you know? Pretty much perfect.
Your porch. I gotta say, one of my very favorite things about working out here, every single night when we are getting ready to wrap it up at the end of the night, we take a few minutes and just soak up the views. It doesn't get much better than this. I decided to take a few minutes here and remove all of these 2x4 braces that we were using to stabilize these posts initially until we got the roof on. But now that that is all done, we're out here installing all of the drip edge so we can start installing the roofing material, which is the exact same shingles that we used on the roof of the entire house, which I've got more information on that in other videos. So we have been working on the porch and we pretty much have it wrapped up, and now it is time to start working on the stone. We took a trip to Europe and we were so inspired by all of the stonework that we found, not just in Paris, but on pretty much every building in every little town that we visited. And we did have a lot of the extra limestone from the pavilion that we wanted to use on the front of the house. I really think that this is going to add a whole lot of character to what is otherwise just a pretty straightforward, basic white house. So putting some time and effort into details like this, like adding a stone skirting with a limestone cap, is going to add a ton of character and just some old world charm to the house. We knew that we wanted to add real stone on the front of the house and not a veneer, so we had already poured a footer for that. So we already had that ledge ready to go, and it took us a few weeks, but we came out here and worked on this in the evenings. Now that it's later in the fall, it is getting dark earlier, and so I didn't film a lot of this because honestly, we were working in the dark pretty much every evening, just using floodlights. Aaron did all of the cutting and the laying of the stone, and I went through behind him working the mortar. And as I worked the mortar, I did a very over-grouted look to try to get that aged, really rustic look that we saw over and over in Paris. I can't even tell you guys how grateful we are that the weather held out long enough for us to lay all of the stonework. Once we had that done, we were able to move on to siding that section of the house that we were saving till very last, as well as the side of the house that connected to that porch. So I'm so extremely glad that we got all of that done, because within a matter of days, fall was gone and winter was here. Venturing out to show you guys. This is what I meant when I said it's really crucial that we get the porch built and all of this stone done before winter hits, because this is what can happen in just a matter of days. We've gotten more snow and set more records than we have in a long time. I came out here so I could show you guys where exactly we finished up on the exterior before winter arrived. So even though it snowed, we are going to continue working on the exterior of this home. We're going to just brush the little bit of snow off the porch roof and finish up that last little bit of siding whenever the weather allows it and we can get out here and work. So we are very close to being done, but there is a little bit more siding to install above that porch roof. So you can see the pavilion back there. You can see our cottage right here. The snow has blown off down over our hills here. So in some places, it's only about a foot or two deep. And then in other places, it's very deep. Like where I'm at right now, there's a huge drift. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's past my knees. The porch is built structurally, but it's far from finished. We are gonna trim it all out. We're gonna be wrapping these posts, adding crown molding, adding beadboard ceiling, and of course, that'll have to be finished in the spring. Thank you so much, guys, for following along in today's video. It has been a lot of fun sharing the progress with you guys all along the way. Self-building a house is not for the faint of heart, but we're very grateful for everything that we've been able to accomplish together this far, and we are even more excited to finish up the exterior of this house and start working on the interior. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.